This morning we continue our journey through parables of neighbors. This morning we take a reading from Luke 14. Jesus tells a parable. Someone gave a great dinner and invited many. At the time for the dinner, he sent his slave to say to those who had been invited, "Come, for everything is ready now." But they all alike began to make excuses. The first said to him, "I have bought a piece of land and I must go out and see it. Please accept my regrets." Another said, "I've bought 5 yoke of oxen and I'm going to try them out. Please accept my regrets." Another said, "I have just been married and therefore I cannot come." So the slave returned and reported this to his master. The owner of the house became angry and said to his slave, "Go out at once into the streets and lanes of the town and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame." And the slave said, "Sir, what you have ordered has been done, and there is still room." Then the master said to the slave, "Go out into the roads and lanes and compel people to come in, so that my house may be filled. For I tell you, none of those who were invited will taste my dinner." Word of God, word of life. Thanks be to God. All week long I've been singing, "I cannot come to the banquet, don't trouble me." Now I have allergies. "I have married a wife, I have bought me a cow, I have fields and commitments that cost me a pretty sum. Pray hold me excused, I cannot come." Wow, I should have had Kristen do that. A tale of 3 feasts. First, a wedding. I officiate at the lovely and simple wedding of a wonderful young couple. The wedding feast takes place in a ballroom at a nearby hotel. Because Ted is out of town and our middle child loves looking at brides and gowns and people, the couple says that Elliot can be my +1. My main reason for attending the reception is to offer the dinner prayer. As Elliot and I find our seats, we discover that we have been seated in the far back corner of the room with an usher, his ill-behaved 4-year-old, and 2 photographers who never actually sit down because they are busy photographing. We feel like the unwelcome guest who showed up unexpectedly. Second wedding. Again, I'm the officiant at the wedding of a wonderful young couple. We have known the bride and groom and her parents since she was 5 years old. The wedding is a fantastic combination of Hindu, hence the Mendi, and Christian rites. The ceremonies and the reception take place at a popular event center. Ted and our young adult children are in attendance. This time, Ted and I are seated with good friends at a table near the front center of the room. Our children are seated with lifelong friends of their own ages, and we feel treasured and included. Tale of a funeral. Just this week, on the evening after Ted's dad's joyous funeral, the family gathers at a golf club for a meal. And we are seated in a lovely room with glass on 3 sides and views of the river. There are 21 of us and 3 large tables, each with 8 chairs and no seating assignments. And as we walk in, my brain goes into overdrive. Where am I supposed to sit? Will I get to sit with my children and my husband? Who else will I sit by? The favorite cousin? The challenging uncle? Will it be fun? Will it be awkward? When will I know? How do we order? What time does the food come? I'm sure I'm the only one who gets like that in a room like that. You know who you are. And of course, it's splendid. I get to eat with my husband and my brother-in-law and 2 hilariously funny cousins with dirt to dish. The food is great, the dessert even better, and we laugh and laugh, and we leak a few tears, and we laugh some more. Banquets, large meal gatherings, and feasts of all kinds can be awkward affairs even at their best. We have all ended up seated too close to a speaker, behind a pillar, too far from the fun, or too close to the fun. We have all ended up at the fun table, the boring table, and the painful table. We have all been in turns either delighted with or disappointed by our assigned meal companions. I once sat next to a college classmate at a wedding, and he turned to me and politely asked what I did for a living. And I said, right now, I'm an at-home mom. And he said, oh, and promptly turned to the person sitting on his other side and didn't speak to me again for the rest of the meal. So stay-at-home moms, I got you. As unpredictable as feasts may be, eating together is central to all of life's key celebrations. There's something nearly sacramental about birthday cake and Christmas dinner, Easter ham, and brats on the 4th of July. One year, as I greeted people after the late afternoon Christmas Eve service, I decided to ask them all what they were going home to eat. It was fascinating to watch everyone's eyes light up as they looked forward to whatever tasted like Christmas and family to them. Turkey, ham, meatballs, oyster stew, appetizer potlucks, bratwurst with sauerkraut on Christmas, and tacos on Christmas. It's often a hurdle in a new marriage, discovering together what tastes like Christmas or Thanksgiving or Sunday supper or summer. It can be a source of conflict and a source of discovery. My mom and dad for years waged a vigorous debate over the texture and heft of dumplings. Some of you know this battle. My dad's mother made what my dad calls plings, light, airy pillows of dough that simmered politely at the top of soup or stew. My mom's mother made what my dad calls plungs, hearty, heavy, stick-to-your-ribs dumplings that hit your plate with a thud. Which one tastes like home? It depends on home, doesn't it? And you can bet that my dad had an opinion. Don't tell him I said this, but he actually made plungs. Each family has their own holy flavors that make Christmas magical or Sunday nights comforting. Because sharing food is holy. Sitting next to or across from another human being, whether you're sharing a sandwich or a steak, binds us together in an inexplicable act of mutuality. You're human, I'm human. You're hungry, I'm hungry. We're both vulnerable, unable to sustain life without this simple act of taking in food. This past May, my doctoral cohort all gathered at a hotel for 3 nights so that we could support one another through the process of defending our theses. Each evening, we sat together around a large table to break bread and exclaim over the rigors and the successes of the day. On the very first evening, as our food arrived, an American Baptist pastor from Minnesota named Cindy offered a prayer for our food. And she closed her prayer with, "And God, we give thanks for people to eat with." Wow. Isn't it true that companionship is the best seasoning no matter what the food? Yes, like all of you, sometimes I eat alone. Sometimes it's a takeout meal at my desk. Sometimes I cook something to eat in front of the TV when Ted is away. It's all tasty enough. I have my favorites, but as comforting as I find peanut butter noodles with roast broccoli, they always taste better when I share them with Ted. And if our 3 kids are at the table with us, I could eat nearly anything and be happy. Gathered with my girlfriends, we might add a glass of wine to the mix and taste each other's lunches and share desserts through a stream of conversation that bears our souls and heals us all at once. Food can take on especially holy qualities in the presence of those we love. Some of you eat alone every day. It's a reality for many of us. For those who live alone or whose spouses travel a lot, eating every meal with someone else just isn't practical. And truth be told, and again, stay-at-home moms, I got you. When my kids were little, sometimes I really looked forward to the opportunity to eat a fillet of fish in my car by myself. But there is something about breaking bread together. God commanded a liberating meal to recall the Passover. It was no mistake that Jesus then chose a meal to mark memory. Food carries memory perhaps better than any other experience because it includes tastes and smells and textures and days spent together making lefse or tortillas, meat pies and krumkaka, canning and pickling the bounty of the garden. Meals draw us together in work, in necessity, in pleasure, and in love. When we gather here each week, we share a meal that has been lovingly prepared for us by our bread bakers. Are any of you out there? Bread bakers? I know you're out there. Are you all going to the drive-in today? And by our altar care team. I know at least Jerry's here today because she set this up. Altar care team. Jerry, put your hand up. Encourage others. Altar care team, bread bakers. They prepare this meal for us with love. And we recall Jesus' words as we come to the table. So I read this question somewhere this week. Does our Eucharistic practice meet Jesus' expectations? Does our Eucharistic practice meet Jesus' expectations? We mess around with bread recipes and sometimes we have to use wafers. We mess around with the language and the liturgy. We wrestle with when and where and how often. And some Christian churches don't celebrate communion at all. In our tradition, in the Lutheran tradition, we celebrate communion as a way of obeying God. It's how we make room at the table for everyone, even those who we think we don't want to sit by at weddings and extended family gatherings. Communion gives us a chance to offer a very particular welcome to every person we encounter. Come and eat. There's plenty. Here you are welcome. Here, there is always someone to eat with. What are Jesus' expectations for the Eucharist? Jesus says, do this and remember me. Remember Jesus. So what do we remember about Jesus? Jesus ate willingly with everyone, including that one usher and his ill-behaved kid. Sinner and saint. He sat next to and ate with tax collectors and Pharisees, with children and widows. He sat on the grass in intimate gatherings and with thousands on the hillside. Jesus touched lepers and healed old women. He tore down the walls that make some people insiders and some outsiders. And Jesus demands the same of us. Do this and remember everything about me. Our Eucharistic practice, to be faithful, must include those that have not always been on the inside. Back in May, Krista Tippett, the host of On Being, recorded an interview right where our altar sits here at Trinity, with the author, and I'm going to get this name wrong, so someone shout it out. Luis Alberto Uria. Am I saying that right? Urea, thank you. Urea. Some of you may have heard it broadcast this week or early this morning while you were brushing your teeth, getting ready to come to church. Among the very many remarkable things Mr. Urea said was this: there is no them, there is only us. Jesus didn't come for just some. Jesus came to serve and to save all. There's no room for stiff-necked nationalism or artificial color lines. There is no room for power differences, no seating assignments, no clan designations, no organizing principle for being human other than love and grace overflowing our expectations, adding chairs to every table, getting everyone fed and splashed and touched and healed. So come to the table this morning. Come hungry. Come open. Invite someone to come with you. You are welcome. You are a treasured guest. You are loved. Amen.